Sometimes with live radio we have difficulty with guests. Emil was scheduled today, and we're trying to track him down on his cell. He's obviously not in the office. I want to continue with discussions on some of the things we mentioned in the last segment on the end of hour number 1. When you're doing functional medicine evaluations like we call living pathology, it goes well beyond mining what's in the normal SMAC panel testing. It has advanced lab work that can look at intermediate metabolism, organic acids, immunology like IgG and IgM antibodies for foods, inhalants. It can look at toxicology of toxic chemicals such as red cell and white cell membrane, high-pressure chromatography or fat biopsies. There's through labs like Environmental Health Center of Dallas. It can look at 23andMe and Prometheus, looking at your genes polymorphisms or SNPs. It can look at imaging studies that can look at your brain function. For example, I get frequent requests by people that say I've got a relative with early or medium or late Alzheimer's disease. They have to understand Alzheimer's disease's primary process is type 3 diabetes, where the astrocytes no longer metabolize sugar so that they can't create an action potential. So we need to reduce that insulin resistance in the brain cells. We need to increase the levels of the action potential mitochondrial function, because the average astrocyte has 500,000 to several million mitochondria. The greatest number of mitochondria is in a cardiomyocyte and a Purkinje cell in the cerebellum, and next is the astrocyte in the cortex of your brain. And we know how to increase that. We use CoQ10 ubiquinol in the brain tissue, which is a water-soluble form. We use things like our D-ribose, NADH tablets to increase ATP and NADH levels. We use Sports Energy Light that increases ATP levels. We use other things like to increase neurotransmitters like Minerals Plus to catalyze the tryptase and pyrrolase enzymes to convert amino acids to neurotransmitters. We create acetylcholine, which is a main neurotransmitter in the controlling areas of the cortex and the motor areas, which is CDP-choline, uridine, and uridine monophosphate, depending on whether you're a fast or slow acetylator, which we can see in your 23andMe, and the use of ultrathymine B1, which is a fat-soluble thiamine, to increase levels of acetylcholine, which is important for vision, cortical function, and memory and motor activity. So these are all doable. We can also look at myelination. If we find that a relative has problems with dementia, one of the, a lot of times they have is what's called patchy dysmyelination. We're not just looking at MS, but you can have loss of normal function of the oligodendrocytes. And if you lose in patchy dysmyelination saltatory nerve conduction, we can restore that with things like Neurogen, Omega Supreme Pro, which is our new omega fatty acid with super high absorption, Omega cod liver liquid, and Omega Krill, which is the astaxanthin, because the fatty acids make up that myelin sheath. We have sphingolin, which is myelin basic protein, and Neurogen are the two core ones for remyelination. You can actually do a T1-weighted MRI scan. We can look at cortical function in terms of voltages and coherence patterns in terms of frequency with a quantitative electroencephalogram. We can look at SPECT blood flow to see if there's a blood flow distortion. To improve that, we can reduce blood viscosity if there's high viscosity through narrowed or atherosclerotic blood vessels using nattokinase or lumbrokinase, and of course the cardiovasc, which will reduce blood viscosity and plaque formation. So there's a whole range of things we can do to increase nitric oxide production from supernox and increasing nitrates. In fact, we'll be adding soon another product to increase nitric oxide production that works with the supernox. Again, I'm always advancing the science of this, and there's ways of testing to prove it, like the Berkeley test strips. So you have to understand what we're doing is advancing the whole science of this. I'm going to be starting to produce what we call professional grade training videos, which will be posted over at the pay-per-view section of Vimeo. They won't be over at Nutrimedical on the YouTube channel, and they won't be free. They'll be pay-per-view for either the public or professionals that will actually cover much deeper issues like reading MRI scans, doing medical evaluations of people with neurological deficits, looking at the underlying metabolic causes of polyneuropathy, etc. They'll be more advanced than just the standard wellness protocols, which are also going to be over at pay-per-view. And of course, the pay-per-view will be available to anybody if you purchase usually under $10 to actually watch those videos. So it's important to understand we're trying to provide a service here so we can change the medical profession. We need to have, we call pre-symptomatic evaluation, and we call living pathology. And as I mentioned before, you want to take what you need, not what you think you need, based on your a priori assumptions or just looking at a protocol, which is why QRMA testing. So if you have a machine out there and you haven't been sending me your test results, it doesn't cost you a cent to send me the compressed file and the short blurb, a few sentences to tell me what things are better, what things aren't better, what other things you're doing. Hopefully you're not taking supplements from any other company. That's stupid and dangerous. You're not taking new drugs, unless I know what they are, because it could be causing deficiency states or imbalances or new health problems. And if you've developed a new problem, I need to know about that so we can address it. And looking at your QRMA, I can tell you, okay, we need to change your protocol to XYZ, because over a period of time it's going to change. You're going to correct deficiency states. You're going to have new illnesses come out. And as you raise the energetic level of the tissue, your QRMA actually may, for a period of time, get worse looking, because it's actually the energy of the tissues is going to start unveiling illnesses and imbalances that weren't previously present. So if your energy level of your tissues is really low, things aren't going to look really bad until we increase the energetic of the tissue, and now all of a sudden things are popping out. So don't be surprised if things look really, really bad. It's because as we increase the energy of the tissues, you're going to unveil imbalances and biophotonic or harmonic resonant patterns that show imbalances and problems, and then we address those and they'll gradually go away, and then we need to address new issues. So it's an evolving process. So if you have a machine for you or your family, just send me the file. Doesn't cost you a cent. Send me the file, send me a paragraph or a couple sentences on what you're doing. Don't just look at it and say, okay, I think I know what I need to do. Don't do that. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to take things you don't need. You're going to buy stuff you don't need. And you're going to miss taking things you do need. And then you're going to either not solve the problem or you're going to create new issues. And creating also deficiency states by creating imbalances. So that's a warning. So if you have a QRMA, do that. Now, if you want to set up a testing, you can charge for your testing of people just by simply gathering the data. If you're doing testing, there's three things you need to do. Number one, you need to get the person's contact information, credit card, and you need to get their history form filled out, and they need to purchase 2 units of time for a consultation for a QRMA and 4 to 6 units for a metapathy if you get a metapathy machine. You can do the test anywhere. You don't have to be licensed for this. You just do the test. You're acquiring data for us and acquiring information for us so that I can do a full evaluation on someone and tell them what they need. I'll also be able to go back looking at their history, whether or not they need to see a conventional doctor or surgeon or dentist or podiatrist for force plate analysis or whatever special tests they need. For example, I had a gentleman yesterday want to know the cause of his pain. Apparently, he does a lot of his work as an artist laying in a bed. I'm thinking that's probably a formula for getting spinal problems. And he says if he sits up, he gets a lot of pain. Well, he needs a sensory nerve mapping. So I'm going to refer him for an axon 2 scan. He may need special types of imaging studies like thermography. He may need to have see a pain specialist to do interventional treating of those areas of pain. He may have a form of spinal arthropathy like ankylosing spondylitis or a spondylitic arthritic spine. So we'll need to find out where those things are. So I think that most people have no idea just how complex medicine is. I do. I've been at it soon approaching half a century. And I try to go deeper than anybody else. And to be honest with you, I do. I'm what we call a living pathologist, which is a functional medicine doc, which didn't exist when I went to medical school or residency back, 40 years ago. It's pretty approaching 40 years because I finished my residency in 1980, 36 years ago. And medical school I finished 39 years ago. So that's a long time ago. Now, I want to touch on some of the news items that are showing up here as well. 70% of voters do not believe the media is honest and truthful. I think it's higher than that, to be honest. I think 6% feel they're truthful to the other votes that I've seen. I think that Twitter is now doing word filtering, of course. Twitter and Facebook and so on are all just arms of the no such agency we call her NSA. And I used to joke with the guys who were my NSA guys because I took care of NSA, CIA, Special Forces, and Delta Force. And guys working on classified projects, U.S. Space Command, Strategic Defense, Star Wars, and off-world space projects. Which, by the way, I only talk about 10% of what I know, because some of it's so unbelievable and so bizarre that I'm not going to even go there, unless it's appropriate for me to do so. The German authorities are really targeting extreme Islamists now. They're raiding all over the country, and they're finally getting it. So I know they're going to turf out Angela Merkel. She'll probably be gone by next year. Angela still hasn't changed her status. She's like what would happen if we elected Hillary, she would still be bringing in jihadists even after they killed a bunch of Americans at a major airport or shopping center like Mall of the Americas. So Angela is a demagogue, and she's more interested in her philosophies than whether or not it puts German citizens in danger. And a lot of Germans listen to the program. We have, aside from Canadians, the Germans, I think, are our next largest audience. So these are smart people. They're kind of waking up to the fact that Americans are no pushovers. I saw one of the magazines from Australia, and of course Australians, like Irish, are probably the most curse-worthy people on earth. So one of the main pictures in the front was a picture of Donald Trump, and it says WTF, and if you know what those initials mean, it's because Americans are finally fed up. We're not going to take it anymore. And whether Hillary won, and believe me, it would be a pitchfork revolution, because we're not going to do violence like these idiots out there kind of trashing cars and busting windows and so on. But we're going to take action in every field, and we're going to take it now anyway to make certain that the agenda of Donald Trump does move forward. We're going to hold his feet to the fire to make sure he does deport the 2 to 3 million illegals that are criminals. He does give a reconsideration to people who are good citizens who came here illegally, so that at the end of the day, you're not deporting 11 or 12 million good people, and their children are now, through anchor babies, now Americans. You're not going to do that, and I'm certain he won't. So I reassured my so-called Democratic people, including staff that work with me, that voted for Hillary Clinton and were afraid of Trump. That fear was basically fueled by an illegal and immoral media that lied about Trump and the fact that he wanted to have a golden door in that wall. So that's a fact. So in terms of trade, every country he's going to basically assemble free trade. And he's already met with Trudeau on the phone, Justin Trudeau, so that's guaranteed that's going to be rearranged. He's also going to complete the XL pipeline, which, by the way, Obama blocked repeatedly. And he's going to also increase the safety on the pipeline, so you're not going to get leaks or destroy rancher land or spoil aquifers. And we need to get the word through to Trump. You can do fracking, but for God's sake, don't do chemical fracking, which destroys the water table and the environment. You can do microwave fracking, and you have to recharge the water with primary water from deep in the earth, from the batholiths of water all over the planet. And this is the water that literally feeds oases and was feeding the new 75% of the new waters in Libya, which is one of the reasons why the globalists attacked him. Not only was the gold dinar, which he was trying to push, but also the fact that he was doing primary water research at a British drilling company and was working with Paul Power from the Primary Water Institute. So you need to understand that globalists don't want you to counteract drought. They don't want you to have a strong economy. They don't want you to have strong borders. They don't want you to negotiate your country with your elected representatives versus their country. They want to have global boards that sit around and that already move their chess pieces and control the whole world. And there's no representation at all of billionaires that want eventually to have cybernetic and genetic technology to extend their lifespans. They want to literally destroy the environment, destroy our lifespan, take away our wealth, and make us slaves in a global matrix after they've killed a lot of us in illegal wars, environmental pollution, and population control philosophies like outlawing wild reproduction of human beings. After they destroy the family by making something like 60 different designations of what male and female otherwise sexual orientation is, so that there really is no such thing as a male or female anymore. And this is all globalism and Satanism gone wild. And we've got onto it. The average American citizen's caught onto it. Blue-collar workers are not stupid. They're very intelligent. They've said, hey, I don't want this. And they've spoken, and that's why Donald Trump is in power, along with Mike Pence. And the people that are actually threatening our president, they better damn well watch it. Because if they think they're going to continue this or try any attempts, we're going to start to get a little bit more aggressive in every possible way. You need to back off. You start attempting to do stuff, and we want to push our politicians to outlaw Black Lives Matter and MoveOn.org. We need to Delta Force Mr. Soros and anybody like him that supports these global initiatives like the Democracy Alliance that Soros started in 2005. He's personally put in $500 million to literally change so-called democracies around the world, including Russia, that's turfed him out and said, we don't want any of your NGO groups here in Russia. Putin had the balls. He actually said, we're not going to do this. We're not going to let you do this to our country, like Pussy Riot and these other organizations that are coming in to try to do an orange revolution. So America's spoken. And you people out there that are protesting, stop it. Stop it now, and if you just keep threatening Donald Trump or even attempt it, we're going to do stuff to you that you're not going to like. And if you think that you're going to get away with this stuff, legally or otherwise, you better think twice. because we're not pushovers. And we're not going to take it, legally or otherwise. And the otherwise is a big why, otherwise. So I'm not going to draw it out, just like Donald's not going to say what he's going to do to take out ISIS. And I saw Barbara Walters asking him questions on 60 Minutes trying to get him to commit. Why would I commit? Why would I say there's no troops on the ground? Why would I say what we're going to do? Of course we're not going to tell you, Barbara. They're going to be surprised when we come, because we're coming not to shake hands with them or pat them on the back or make a deal with them. We're coming to kill them. And Trump and Putin are going to kill these big buggers. They're going down. And they're going to have Trump and Putin are going to be the co-secretaries arranging the visit with these Islamists to see Allah. And they're going to find out that, number one, it's a deep, dark pit. There's no virgins or boys with skin like pearls. It ain't going to happen. Okay, so you need to understand this. With Trump and Putin together coming after ISIS, it's the end of the game. ISIS is going to shrink in the next few years, or as they're literally destroyed. And they might think they got a window for the next few months. Obama better buck up and actually step up to the plate now and realize that the policies changed immediately. The border guards are ignoring his edicts and his executive orders. And even before Donald Trump has the pen to actually neutralize all of the executive actions of Obama, the border guards are ignoring him. They're basically saying, we're not doing what you want us to do anymore. So there's a number of acquisitions occurring. In fact, I was reading there was almost like 100,000 acquisitions of people illegally crossing the border just in the last few days. And our border guards, and ICE totally supported Donald Trump. Game's over, Obama, and you might do your last flight around the country and around the world to say how you want to keep your legacy. You're delusional. You're still in a state of denial, boy, and it's over. Your globalism strain is gone. Now, another news story that I see up here is one by, right on the front page here, called The Year of the Bull, which is, Megyn Kelly. Now, Megyn Kelly is someone I do not in any way, shape, or form like over at Fox News. She's nasty, she's inappropriate, and she's arrogant. And her fight back and forth, thank God that she's finally got some truce with them. And for a little change of pace, I'm going to go down to some of the consultations I've done recently so you get an idea of the range of complex issues that I deal with every day. And that service that's available, most of it actually. Hi, Emil. How are you doing?
Good afternoon.
Good. I want to start off with the nice little device you sent me that can take our broadcast frequencies. Now, I want to back up a bit. I talked to one of my friends, Dr. Truod, who's done research on atomic resonance. I've talked to other scientists and experts. And recently to Jim Gersey, who actually was my expert dealing with a lot of broadcast frequencies, and yourself, the electronics expert. And you've actually sent me an antenna, a way of actually preamplifying our MP3s. Those MP3s are resonant frequencies of atomic minerals based on quantum resonance theory that goes back to Linus Pauling, which means and you can actually get some software called Broadcaster Play 432. Now, it turns out that the A note on the musical scale, if you back it from 440 hertz to 432 hertz, all the resonant frequencies of the musical notes actually fall in line with the resonant frequencies of atomic resonance of the major and minor minerals and trace elements. Now, why is that important? It's because it turns out that living things, that's why you can take and play classical music in a greenhouse, and the plants grow like crazy. It also turns out that's why 18 of the longest lived people on Earth all have one common thing. They all have glacial milk, 17 of the 18 peoples, or the Okinawa Japanese have coral calcium in their diet. They grind it up and make coral calcium, which is minerals. Turns out that the primary thing that determines aging, and this is where the French paradox comes in, because the trans-resveratrol increases the length of your telomeres. And if you actually take people, including identical twins, and you look at the length of their telomeres, the twin with the longer telomeres is going to live longer. Isn't that interesting? Now, what telomeres do is they actually send a resonant frequency to the cell membrane to let minerals in. And minerals tell your genes to either turn on to make structural proteins or enzymes. So the enzymatic content, the vitamin content, the color of vegetables, the health of your physical human cells is all determined by minerals. Now, what we can do now with your little device, which is inexpensive, is, and it can contact you over at Les EMF to get this device. It's a real simple thing, a preamplifier to take an MP3, a little plug-in, 3.5 plug-in, amplify that signal and put it through an antenna to broadcast it to their body, almost like what you call a resonant radio signal. Now, what that does is it entrains the tissues. Now, we can put that frequency, and we're trying to put an ear jack into the lumen photon for putting it on the on phase of the light to these resonant frequencies, a microcurrent device like the Accutron, which I've talked to Darren Starwin, a radionic device like the Rife machine, all kinds of technology where when you set up an entrainment frequency, including the sonic vibrational platform exercise machine, where you can actually put the frequency in, and it entrains the tissues to absorb energy at that frequency that opens up the ion channels and therefore lets the minerals in to create the specific messenger RNA, the structural proteins, and the enzymes. So let's talk about what's in that little combination of pieces that allows people to have this little device. And it's really inexpensive, isn't it, to actually set up the system where you can simply take the ear jack, stick it in your preamp, put it over to your antenna, and then take it over the area of the body where you're having a problem, let's say arthritis. And this is an important corollary from what my research, which I'm preparing a more advanced video and presentation that'll be on our A4M website to tens of thousands of doctors, is that my theory of aging and disease is that it is a song of your DNA, and that the primary driver of disease and aging is a signature of mineral deficiencies which cause enzyme and structural protein deficiencies that produces a disease state that malfunction. Pretty interesting and simple to prove too, isn't it?
I don't know how simple to prove it is, but it's very interesting.
Well, you can actually, I'll tell you how you can prove it. If you take a plant, and let's say that we found certain groups of minerals, let's say there's 8 minerals or 9 minerals, and I was to feed that plant the minerals, which is in glacial milk, which I already have available. I've been using several different products over time. And it contains maybe shilajit, which is from the Himalayan mountains, or it contains a carrier, or Dead Sea minerals. And we have some. We're looking at some other products we may be bringing in as well. And what happens is that we have our albion chelate minerals in, for example, all our products, whether it's the drinks, our Minerals Plus, or Vitamin Mineral Max. So they're not just ionic. When you actually take these little devices, ooh, that's amazing. We're going to continue. We'll keep you over into the next segments, okay? But when you have this nice little broadcaster device, it helps to open up the ion channel so it gives your body permission to heal itself. How's that? It gives your body permission to bring in the minerals and start healing process, because the healing process is blocked because you don't have the minerals to create the structural proteins and enzymes. How's that? Our civilization fell from ancient times probably over 20,000 years ago because of galactic and solar events. The ancient societies of Atlantis and Mu, we had anti-gravitonic technology, we had all kinds of technology that we're only starting to reach again today. They knew about the musical scale, and these were passed on to people like King David, who used the ancient scale, which is based on 432 hertz for the musical note A. And if you can get software now that can actually transmute your music and play it, any music you want, to play 432 hertz for the note A, and it will move all the musical scale, and it turns out that every single one of the musical notes is resonant with a major and minor mineral. So basically music is, in a sense, music to the minerals in your cell. The minerals in your cells are the primary driver and controller of the induction of all DNA to make structural proteins and enzymes. Every enzyme has at its active site a monatomic form of a superconductor version of an element, whether it's zinc, copper, cobalt, or whatever, and so that every enzyme in your body requires a monatomic superconductor form to actually make or break bonds that create all the enzymatic activity in your cells. And the primary effect of life, whether it's a plant, an animal, or a bacterium, is that the genetic material resonates with the cell membrane to determine the ion content that turns on and off genes. So that the primary driver of light is a dance between biophotons and gene switching in the axial cell membrane that lets the mineral come in to turn on the genes. So that if a plant has high mineral content and it has all its genes turned on, it's going to have higher vitamin content, higher bioavailable nutrients, brighter color, and better taste. And you can actually measure it on a polarized microscope by grinding it with a little mortar and pestle, and you can see the rate of rotation of the polarized light tells you exactly what the mineral content, the sugar content, and the vitamin content is in the food if you do high-pressure chromatography or nuclear magnetic spectroscopy. Now, why is that important? It means that if you played the right music, which we can now generate an MP3, or you can now broadcast with your little device, you can actually broadcast those frequencies into your cells and tissues. So let's say you got an inflamed joint and you need specific minerals to heal the joint. So let's say you need zinc, copper, selenium, manganese, etc. Let's say we have a half a dozen minerals. if you resonate those specific frequencies, the ion channels will open up. So if those nutrients are present in your diet or your supplements, your body will take them into those damaged or injured tissues that weren't taking them in, turn on the genes to make the structural proteins and the enzymes to heal the tissue, which is really cool. You have a permissive effect of biophoton circuits that are, because every tissue and every organ in the body is a resonant harmonic capacitor. And you understand what that means. It means concatenated or hierarchical resonant harmonic capacitors from organelles, tissues, and organs determine the health of every tissue, and that's how your body builds organs and tissues from the hierarchical, we call harmonic resonant DNA, we used to call junk DNA, but DNA actually creates resonant, if you want to call it hierarchical code that determines how to build a liver or a brain or a cerebellum or a heart, and actually is created in a series of resonant harmonic frequencies that actually are the way the body codes how to build an organ and make it function. And the primary thing that drives and controls the genes, the black keys on the keyboard, are your minerals. And it turns the minerals, in a sense, are the drivers of music. And so music itself, which is switched off to the wrong frequency by a factor of 8 hertz, from 440 hertz for A down to 432, every mineral, then if you switch to 432, is actually resonant with the major minor minerals like calcium, magnesium, chromium, vanadium, zinc, etc., and all the trace elements like manganese that's necessary for activating vitamin D, etc. Every single musical note matches the molecular atomic resonance. Is that cool or what?
Very good.
Now, people haven't heard this now. King David used the ancient scale that was based on the A at 432 hertz. And by the way, this is a contradiction to the liar. Len Horowitz has stole some of the technology from one of his colleagues who was looking into this. And Dr. Truott, who's my colleague, and others that have been interacting with for years, have been harassed with lawsuits from this idiot, Len Horowitz, who stole and pushed this harmonic resonance 528 hertz, which is what's called Baker-Miller pink, that's used as a color to calm the fetus inside the uterus, when in fact the harmonic resonance is not based on 528, it's based on 432, based on the resonant frequency of the atomic resonance of minerals. So I've been looking at this for years. I have a background in quantum physics and nuclear physics, because I was expected to go into nuclear physics at MIT. I taught myself quantum mechanics in grade 11, and I went through a special aptitude test, and I actually beat everyone in the country except for a few other people who already had a bachelor or master's in physics degree. I was one of the top students across the country as physics aptitude. So, what I'm summarizing here is by theory of what aging is and disease. Aging and disease are simply an imbalance of atomic resonance and mineral deficiency causing gene silencing. So every disease has a mineral frequency pattern, has a atomic resonance, and actually aging process is a system of systematic gene silencing by turning off the ion channels. So even if the nutrient's outside the cell, it won't be absorbed. So when your hair turns gray, it's because your hair follicles actually stop transporting manganese, so the manganese-dependent pigment enzymes shut down and your hair turns gray because it no longer has gray pigment. That's how disease happens. Interesting, eh? Now, if you take a plant, like you give me an example, if I want to make what I call a superculture plant, I would have a hypercarbic, hyperbaric greenhouse where I'd feed them the minerals from, let's say, the Dead Sea, which has 14 minerals that are not present in the oceans, and I would carry a mineral carrier, and we're making a new mineral carrier, chaperone. The one that the glacial milk people have is what's called Shilajit from the Himalayan mountains. And if you look at the oldest lived people, they have also things that lengthen their telomeres. They have things like transresveratrol, which causes what we call the French paradox. The reason why the French live longer is because their mineral content is higher in their cells, because they drink wine every day rather than having contaminated water. They have longer telomeres than the average population anywhere else. Also, if you have probiotics, it lengthens your telomeres. So the forms of bifidobacteria and other bacteria present in the South Georgia mountains, not only do they drink glacial milk, but they have probiotics that lengthen their telomeres. So the crosstalk between the ends of their chromatids and their cell membrane, which is a biophoton stream of resonant frequencies, opens up the ion channel. So what your little device does, and I want you to explain the pieces of it. What it does actually is it allows you to literally give permission to the cells to heal. So tell us, what are the components?
Sure. So you're starting with an MP3 player in which you've encoded these frequencies.
Right. It's basically a healing frequency. So if I've selected, let's say, 5 frequencies for diabetes, those frequencies are playing as an MP3. We may do it covering higher musical frequencies, so it sounds, ethereal. But the resonant frequencies you can actually hear and you can feel through your body. Okay, so if you're playing them while you're exercising, you can feel those resonant frequencies going, working on your cells and tissue. Now, when you put it in your device, you literally plug that MP3 into the little amplifier, and it goes to an antenna. So tell us each part of it.
Sure. So the MP3 is putting out a voltage out of the output, right? And you could plug a headset into it, for example.
Right, and listen to it with your headset like your MP3 player,
Right, and so that headset is going to convert that voltage output to a sound signal of the same frequency.
Right.
So let's say the voltage is coming out at 432 hertz, then the headset will convert that to a pure sound of 432 hertz. But you could take that same voltage output and convert it to any number of things at that frequency. So what this setup that Dr. Deagle has is an amplifier to boost that signal. Of course, on your MP3 player, you can adjust the volume, right? So that adjusts the strength of this voltage coming out.
Right.
But even so, you may want to boost it even beyond that.
Right.
So let's say you're at the maximum on your MP3 player, but you want it stronger than that, so you put an amplifier in it. And all that does is boost up the signal. Then beyond that, you have a choice as to what to do with this signal now. Do you want to make a sound? So the amplifier that you've got there has a speaker built into it, so you could make the sound to fill the room, for example, so everyone in the room can hear it. Or you can take this voltage output from the amplifier and actually put it into 2 probes that you could hold in your 2 hands or touch to 2 different points on your body.
Right, like a microcurrent.
You can actually, microcurrents, you can actually have this current flowing of that frequency flowing through your body in whatever place you want. If you hold it in your 2 hands,
so you can make this as a microcurrent device too. So you can just have one electrode, say an electrode which is a ground. You can actually have it attached to a ground electrode you hold, and the other one you can touch to say an injured muscle or joint. And those resonant frequencies will then go through that tissue, because everything in the body is like Tron. You remember how the Tron had that little electrical points? Well, each of those points, believe it or not, is a thing called a Langerhans complex. Now, I was the primary one who discovered what the Langerhans complex did. It was discovered by Langerhans, the same guy that discovered the Langerhans cells in the pancreas to make insulin. But Dr. Langerhans, over a century ago, didn't know what it meant. I was the one who discovered it and have it in my 1986 patents. It's the primary pain gate. It's also the gate for your autonomic nervous system. It's what's activated if you see an abnormal digital thermogram of someone who has an underlying problem like cancer or vascular disease. And people need to know, for example, that half the people who have a heart attack have clean as a whistle arteries, but they have vasospasm. That vasospasm is tied to dysautonomia, mineral imbalances, and an imbalance of the sympathetic overdrive of their autonomic nervous system. So every disease needs to have several things. Number one, mineral imbalances and dysautonomia, which is an imbalance of their autonomic nervous system. And when that happens, they get free radical surges. So if we had, let's say, the theoretical Linus Pauling field ion scanner, which I worked out the physics of how to make one, and I told it to a radiologist 5 years ago in Los Angeles, the brief outline of it, I know how to make a field ion scanner, which is based on this resonant technology. You could literally scan someone and see their individual organs and see where they have mineral and tissue and enzymatic imbalances, and see the resonant frequencies of a disease state, even the actual identity of a pathogen in a specific organ in 4-dimensional space, which is time as well as physical dimensional space. So we now have that technology with the metapathia, where I can actually scan down to someone's prostate and tell you which minerals are imbalanced that are tied into their chronic prostatism or prostate cancer. So now we know the mineral signature that occurs in a tissue or organ when it gets diseased. There's a mineral signature for every illness, including aging, in an organ. Isn't that interesting?
Sure. That is terrific.
Yeah, it means we're actually, and of course we couldn't measure this before until the Russian research on metapathia and the bioplasm, but I know how to build a real-time scanner machine. It would be like an MRI or CT. It would actually show a radiologist a real-time field ion scanner, would show resonant harmonic frequencies and put it into a color scale that you could actually look at as a video or as a static image. So you can actually see, okay, I see an intermediate metabolite in a particular part of the brain or whatever, or I see a specific deficiency of a mineral present in a certain solid organ like the liver that's tied directly to that disease state like chronic hepatitis. And that's pretty cool. It means it tells me the metabolic and the harmonic resonant frequency patterns that are maintaining the signature, if you want to call it the electronic scar of the disease state. How's that?
Right.
Pretty cool.
Good.
No one's ever talked about this before, by the way, except for people like Linus Pauling. I'm completing and standing on his shoulders and the shoulders of other scientists like Dr. Truott, Linus Pauling, and other scientists like Nikola Tesla. And I've literally advanced the science further. I can actually take a microchip analyzer from Keithley Enterprises, which was, by the way, classified for 20 years until I got one back 20 years ago. And I can actually scan over someone's body, and I can pick up the harmonic resonant frequency of, say, a small old cell carcinoma of their lung. And if they've got metastases to different organs, I can actually scan over and find the resonant frequency of that metastatic deposit in their individual organs and tell you where they have secondary deposits of that cancer from the harmonic resonant frequency. I can actually take the electrodes, and today I can take a field ion, a Keithley Enterprises microchip device that's used for measuring microchip, we call the Class A chips that go to the military. I can actually scan someone's body and pick the harmonic resonant frequency of any disease state and tell you if they've got a resonant frequency in their right knee, which has got rheumatoid arthritis, but the left knee is free. There's no dysautonomia, so you're not going to see a thermographic change in the digital thermogram, but you're going to see resonant frequencies in the right knee, indicating that Mycoplasma hominis incognita and the specific rheumatoid nodules present and the resonant frequencies of a disease state in the right knee, but not the left. Is that cool or what? So I can tell you that every disease state requires harmonic resonant circuit, requires mineral imbalances, and requires the permission to create a disease state in that target organ. So without the abnormal electrical circuits and the abnormal mineral content, the disease state cannot be permitted. So you can have the antibodies against the joint, but the other knee, which is not affected, doesn't have the frequencies of the circuits present. Is that cool or what? Now, no one's ever looked at this before. I first pointed this out to my boss, John Woodbury, when I was working in research as a medical student, and he was so entrained by a lot of the discoveries I made regarding inflammatory arthritis, he even had tried to get his daughter to actually trap me into being married to her, and he wanted me to be his chief resident PhD in rheumatology, working for the Canadian Arthritis Association to find the cause of arthritis, because he himself had basically spinal arthritis. And he knew I'd find the answer, because basically you present me with any problem on earth and I will find a solution. It may take me decades, but I'm going to find it, because I'm very persistent. And I have a mind that kind of flips and turns things inside out and backwards, and I can do things that other people find difficult. To me, it's child's play. It's nothing. It's easy. So I want people to understand what you've done for me now is you've provided me a real simple device just using simple technology that I think, what is it, under $150, $200 to put all these little pieces together? It's cheap, isn't it?
Well, for the accessories that you have, it's about $100, and then you need an MP3 player.
Oh yeah, well yeah, they have that with their Walkman. Or, I mean, not the Walkman. Their little iPhone or their player on their
iPods
iPad
and so on.
iPod.
Sure, even a
so
computer.
yeah, and all you need to do is download the frequency, and you can purchase it right from us, and then you just download and play it. It's that simple. It's like, oh my gosh. Now, if I have a metapathia scan on you, I can tell you exactly for your individual organ which minerals are causing your problem, say with your prostate or your lungs or whatever, or your heart. I can tell you which minerals is a specific signature for you that are causing your disease state right now. And as I said earlier in the other segments, if you take things you don't need, you're going to create imbalances and deficiency states. So you got to make sure you're not taking stuff you don't need. Because a lot of people say, well, I'm just taking tons of vitamins, and think that's not good. You got to take what you need, not what you think you want. And one of the same things goes with the idea of frequencies. If you're walking with a cell phone on the side of your head, because you're now part cyborg, or you got a Bluetooth earphone in your head, which is giving resonant frequency, you're already pinpointing through your temporal and your hippocampus resonant frequencies that are going to disrupt normal cellular communication and control of your hypothalamus and pituitary gland and your pineal. And if you think that's good for you, let me tell you, you better think again. It's not. So, Wi-Fi network, cell phone, smart meters, here, it's free. It's 432player.com. I'll post up the link, 432player.com. There's several different softwares that you can actually get 432player. When I looked it up, you can actually get, let me see what we have here. We have, for example, SEMA Scope, 432 Tuner, 432 Player, and Dreamworld. Just examples. So there's a lot of people making software for this to have completely harmonic resonant music. And when you tie it all together, it kind of makes sense that the process of aging is 4 stages. The first stage is placental and fetal or baby. Second stage is baby through to reproductive adolescent. Third stage is maturing adult to family. And fourth stage is actually gene silencing, aging, and death. And 90% of disease states are actually premature tissue imbalances, either created by mineral deficiencies in the diet, toxic things that block various enzymes, and chronic deficiency states that actually prematurely shut down organ function. You can square the life curve up by simply regenerating the mineral content, and if we actually play the right music, we can maintain enzymatic and structural protein levels well over a century. And in fact, the idea of zero senescence is simply a matter of avoiding playing the fourth phase of that musical song called the Song of DNA that causes death, and maintaining the third phase of that song, which is maturation and continued organ function. So we're now kind of step by step kind of moving into that phase. You have to test to find out what's going on. The QRMA and the metapathia are the most accurate testing, although you can back it up. Looking at mineral content, for example, you can measure 22-pack minerals in your red blood cells using a what's called directtest.com, and you can have a blood tech, either at LabCorp, Quest, or a mobile blood tech, draw the blood and show you what mineral content is present. That's just in your red cells. It doesn't tell you what's going on in the individual organs. The metapathia will tell you the individual organs. The QRMA will give you a general scope of whether or not there's a system-wide deficiency or excess of a specific mineral or heavy metal that may be blocking specific ion channels. For example, if you have mercury, it blocks everything in the same vertical line in the periodic table of elements, so mercury will block zinc metalloenzymes. And you can block, for example, uranium blocks molybdenum and chromium, so it causes prediabetes and diabetes. It blocks the hexose monophosphate shunt, so it literally causes the cells to start shutting down metabolism. And it also blocks the bioconversion of neurotransmitters, because without molybdenum, you can't make nitric oxide, or your tryptase and pyrrolase enzymes can't convert amino acids to neurotransmitters, norepinephrine and dopamine, so you start getting adrenal failure and other problems. So it all kind of makes logical sense when you actually start kind of teasing apart the pieces of it, and that's so exciting. So it's so exciting that we're able to now test and find out what's out of balance well before you ever get symptoms. And symptom-based medicine is old hat. We're now moving much further beyond that. A couple of other announcements that are going on. Let's go back to our wellness protocols. We're actually about to start those. Consultation sent. Here we are. We have protocol for pain, Inflamex, Cell Defense Plus, Collagen Max, Tendon Mender, and Joint Performance. We had one lady who had a pelvic fracture. Bone Generator, half an hour after two largest meals, MyCell D3, Collagen Max, Nutrimed's Royal Jelly, if budget permits, Myco D2, full vitamin K2, Mountain Red Velvet, and of course FiberSlim. Vibrational exercise compresses the bone crystals to help regeneration. So if you have a question on any health or healing issue, I have protocols that I custom designed for everything and every health challenge you have, and now the technology is to test and show that what we're doing is working.